As we read today, I want you to practice taking notes as we read. Lena stared miserably down at a letter B someone had scratched into her desktop long ago. Almost anything would have been better than pipeworks labor. Greenhouse helper had been her second choice. She imagined with longing the warm air and earthy smell of the greenhouse where she could have worked with Clary, the greenhouse manager, someone she'd known all her life. She would have been content as a doctor's assistant too, binding up cuts and bones. Even a street sweeper or a cart puller would have been better. At least she could have stayed above the ground with the space and people around her. She thought going down into the pipeworks must be like being buried alive. So I'm going to stop here and think for a moment. From what we've learned in this paragraph, it seems that Lena, she really enjoys the outdoors. So this makes me think that she is not going to like being a pipeworks laborer because she won't be able to go outside. One by one, the other students chose their jobs. None of them got such a wretched job as hers. Finally, the last person rose from his chair and walked forward. It was Dune. His dark eyebrows were drawn together in a frown of concentration. His hands, Lena saw, were clenched into fists at his sides. Dune reached into the bag and took out the last scrap of paper. He paused a minute, pressing it tightly in his hands. "Go on," said the mayor. "Read." Unfolding the paper, Dune read "Messenger." He scowled, crumpled the paper, and dashed it to the floor. I want us to stop here and visualize for a moment. Think of Dune scowling. A scowl is an angry look. So he gave an angry look, he crumpled up the paper, and he threw it. Usually this is something that someone does when they're mad. So this makes me think that Dune, he's not happy about this assignment. Lena gasped. The whole class rustled in surprise. Why would anyone be angry to get a job of the messenger? "Bad behavior," cried the mayor. His eyes bulged and his face darkened. "Go to your seat immediately." Dune kicked the crumpled paper into a corner. Then he stalked back to his desk and flung himself down. The mayor took a short breath and blinked furiously. "Disgraceful," he said, glaring at Dune. "A childish display of temper. Students should be glad to work for their city. Ember will prosper if all citizens do their best." He held up a stern finger as he said this, and he moved his eyes slowly from one face to the next. Suddenly, Dune spoke up. "But Ember is not prospering," he cried. "Everything is getting worse and worse." "Silence!" cried the mayor. "The blackouts!" cried Dune. He jumped from the seat. "The lights go out all the time now. And the shortages? There's shortages of everything. If no one does anything about it, something terrible is going to happen." Lena listened with a pounding heart. What was wrong with Dune? Why was he so upset? Why was he taking things too seriously, as he always did? Miss Thorne strode to Dune and put a hand on his shoulder. "Sit down," she said quietly. But Dune remained standing. The mayor glared. For a few moments, he said nothing. Then he smiled, showing a neat row of gray teeth. "Miss Thorne," he said, "who might this young man be?" "I'm Dune Harrow," said Dune. "I will remember you," said the mayor. He gave Dune a long look, then turned to the class and smiled his smile again. Do you think it's a good thing that the mayor is going to remember Dune? He was so rude and disrespectful to the mayor. I wonder how this is going to affect him throughout the story. "Congratulations to you all," he said. "Welcome to Ember's workforce. Miss Thorne, class, thank you." The mayor shook hands with Miss Thorne and departed. The students gathered their coats and caps and filed out of the classroom. Lena walked down the wide hallway with Lizzie, who said, "Poor you. I thought I picked a bad one, but you got the worst. I feel lucky compared to you." Once they were out of the door, Lizzie said goodbye and scurried away, as if Lena's bad luck were a disease she might catch. Lena stood on the steps for a moment and gazed across Harkin Square, where people walked briskly bundled up cozily in their coats and scarves, or talked to one another in the pools of light beneath the great street lamps. A boy in a red messenger's jacket ran towards the gathering hall. On Ottawa Street, a man pulled a cart with sacks of potatoes. In the buildings all around the square, rows of lighted windows shone bright yellow and deep gold. Lena sighed. This is where she wanted to be. Up here, where everything happened, not down underground. Someone tapped her on the shoulder. Startled, she turned and saw Doom behind her. His thin face looked pale. Will you trade with me? He asked. Trade? Trade jobs. I don't want to waste my time being a messenger. I want to help save the city, not run around and carry gossip. Lena gasped at him. You'd rather be in pipeworks? Electrician's helper is what I wanted, Doom said. But Chet won't trade, of course. Pipeworks is the second best. But why? Because the generator is in the pipeworks, said Doom. Lena knew about the generator, of course. In some mysterious way, it turned the running of the river into the power of the city. You could feel its deep rumble when you stood in Plummer Square. I need to see the generator, Doom said. I have ideas about it. He thrust his hands into his pockets. So, will you trade? Yes, cried Lena. Messenger's the job I want most. And not a useless job at all, in her opinion. People couldn't be expected to trudge halfway across the city every time they wanted to communicate with someone. Messengers connected everyone to everyone else. Anyways, whether it was important or not, the job of the messenger must just happen to be perfect for Lena. She loved to run. She could run forever, and she loved exploring every nook and cranny of the city, which was what a messenger got to do. All right then, said Doom. He handed her a crumpled piece of paper, which he must have retrieved from the floor. Lena reached into her pocket, pulled out a slip of paper, and handed it to him. Thank you, he said. You're welcome, said Lena. Happiness sprang into her, and happiness always made her want to run. She took the steps 3 at a time and sped down Broad Street towards home. So now we're going to take some notes. So what was most important from this here? So the notes you want to take today, we want to write that Duna and Lena, they traded jobs. Lena is now a messenger, which is the job she wanted. In Dune, he wanted to be a pipework laborer to help make the generator better and maybe save the city. That could be important for the rest of our story. So now that we're done our reading today, I want you to head on over and do your response for the day, which is in a Google survey.